I took watercolor classes years ago, and the teacher recommended Princeton Snap. And mine are getting kind of worn out. They look like, just had some over here. So they look like these, and you can get them on Amazon. But I think these are pretty, in fact, these are probably a little bit softer. So I got those. Some more Simmons, a little bit bigger. These might almost be too big or too much for watercolor, but I'm going to try them out anyway. I tend to try not to... I don't use my watercolor brushes for acrylics, but I'm not doing a lot in acrylics right now, so I'm going to keep my focus mainly on watercolor and the colored pencils. These are the pencils that I got, kind of an assortment. They sold open stock. And I'll do a little test on these, the Derwent Inktense. So I have a lot of Derwent Inktense, so I'm just kind of adding to my collection. I didn't have a list of what I have, but I knew I wanted some Payne's Gray, purpley colors. So got 5 of those, so we'll test those out. Got some pastel pencils. A pretty good collection of pastel pencils I hope to eventually get to in my series of videos. So I think all the rest of these are, this is a Conte. Here's another Derwent in a greenish color, Fern. Another pastel from Faber-Castell. And this one is a Conte. Another Conte. A Derwent Inktense. Conte. They didn't have, what I was literally looking for there was Caran d'Ache. I mainly focused on Derwent, the Inktense. But I was looking for Caran d'Ache luminance to add to my luminance pencils. But maybe it's a good thing they didn't have them. I should take a list down and make a list of the ones I want to buy instead of just trying to remember and grabbing whatever they've got. So I also got several watercolor paints. Daniel Smith is my favorite brand. I got this iridescent moonstone. Let's see what else I've got. Daniel Smith. And the moon glow in Daniel Smith. I was looking for lunar black there at Jerry's Artorama in Fort Collins, but they were out. So this is what I ended up with, and the iridescent copper. I don't know why I seem to be kind of focused on and obsessed with metallic finishes lately in my work. So that's why I ended up with these two. We'll test those out. Romber and the QOR. So I think I was just looking for some different ones to try. I've got some other QOR. I bought some when they first came out. So I like, they're just kind of a unique kind of properties. Van Gogh, I think I just wanted to try, I've been kind of wanting to try, and I have been trying a little bit cheaper watercolors. And then I got this Holbein gold. Again, a little bit of an obsession with the metallics. And so that's why this ended up in my supply. So let's go ahead and swatch these out and see what they're like. This is an old sketchbook I have. laying around on my desk. I've been just scribbling in. So we'll start here. And what brush? So I want to see how I like these Simply Simmons brushes for watercolor. So they're got gum arabic on them just to shape them in shipment, protect them. I'm kind of working that out. So let's go ahead and try the Holbein. You can see the gold. Put that in there. Then I'd like to see, I'm just going to smear that off. So I don't usually put my paints in a palette. Take out what I think I'm going to use, and or if I'm going to mix, make sure I got plenty mixed, but I just don't keep my paints in a palette anymore. Some people do, some people don't. So let's see what this gold is like. So it's a pretty nice soft, and how this brush does as far as holding pigment. Take this. It'll be interesting to see what this looks like when it dries. How does this go into... So you can see how that kind of spreads a little. I am curious here. Just gonna put a dot right there. So what do you think? What do you think of the brush? QOR Raw Umber. Okay, let me try the QOR Cerulean Blue. So you can see how that blue moves in that water. Oh, that is fine. Like that. Okay. So let's, by comparison, let's try the Payne's Gray Van Gogh. A little bit cheaper watercolor, but not cheap. Cheap. Just a little less expensive, maybe is a better way to put it. So you saw how that QOR moved, did its watercolor thing. Oh yeah, I like that. Now I got Payne's Gray. No. Why did I think I got Payne's Gray in a different? Maybe it was one of the pencils. You see how that's kind of... Okay, I'm going to try... Have you ever seen Moon Glow? Quite a fascinating watercolor from Daniel Smith. I mean, Daniel Smith does things that are just out of this world. So I lived in Seattle for a while. We would go over to the Daniel Smith store. I think after the pandemic it closed. Look at that. And it kind of separates out, so you've got this purplish, pinkish. You can see it starting to, right there, right down there. It's got this purplish, pinkish undertone to it. It's just pretty fascinating. So I'm sorry if I'm new to this YouTube thing. I'm not real good about keeping track of is my stuff still showing in the video. So live and learn. Try this iridescent copper. Oops. I'm going to take this dry brush and see if I can pick that up. Try this. A little bit different brush. This is a Groombrocker, not the Simmons. I really like, oh yeah, I like this flat brush. That's cool. That is a pretty color. How that would look if I mixed that with that blue. What kind of gray would I get? Yeah, that's good. That's a good gray. I like that. Gonna have to try that on some landscapes that are kind of monochromatic and supposed to be gray. And usually you mix like an ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and you get a really nice bluish gray. I think I'm going to mess around with this a little. The brush. It's amazing. I like this brush. Okay, so I'm going to flip this page. We did the copper. The only one I have left is this silver. This is gouache. The copper is gouache. The moon glow is not. So this is iridescent moonstone. If I don't have to clean these out right away, I'll probably use that for the landscape thing I was talking about. So this is gouache, so it's a little, supposedly supposed to be different. Maybe it's not as simplistic as just saying gouache is opaque watercolor, but that's what I hear a lot. That's some nice, yeah, I like that. And that's a nice gray too. So I think that's everything. Oh, I wanted to test these pencils out. So I'm going to go ahead, flip that page, and so this one is the Indian ink. Inktense ink black. Do it a little bit. I'll do it a little bit heavier on the right. Pastel, dusky purple. Let's see what we got here. Oh, look at that! How that, when that's activated, how that color just. I don't know if I'm pressing too hard or what, but
iPhone 16 is a durable design and ceramic shield because the average person drops their phone 208 times a year.
Fern.
Once they see the price. iPhone 16e, latest iPhone.
I tried to grab colors where I didn't recognize the names, because I do have some Inktense. I have a lot of Inktense bars, sticks. I have Derwent watercolor pencils. That's a nice green. I like that. In fact, I was kind of planning on doing a watercolor pencil video. I have so many different projects, artistic projects, not just demo videos and stuff that I'm working on now. This is the Payne's Gray.
Choose wisely. Choose what makes you happy. My friends, my family, my work.
Let me know how you use your Derwent, your Inktense. These lines, maybe I'm just being too heavy-handed and not putting the pencil on the pigment on the paper light enough. I'll try being a little bit less. Just going in there like this. With the side of the pencil instead of the point. That's a nice color. Of course, it could be just trial and error. Well, that seemed to activate a little bit better. And it could be the paper I'm using. Maybe I need to use a little bit like a hot press. Okay. Another ink black. And this is red violet. So I'm just going to do this here. Again, going with just the side of the pencil. So when you get new art supplies, or supplies you haven't used before, and I'm not super familiar with watercolor or water-soluble pencils, even though I've got a good supply of them. I'd like to do an entire like landscape or floral or something like that with my watercolor pencils. But look at how much color you get out of that. And that's pretty amazing. I love Inktense. Love them. Haven't been able to use them very much. Okay, so now let's hop over to these pastel pencils that I got. This is Conte Paris Pastel. And you may be asking, how would you sharpen that? Well, I've got a lovely Dolly pencil sharpener that I'll show you in some future video. Just started using it yesterday. So you can see like how you can smudge out. And this is just the black. I think it doesn't have the color name on there. These are made in France. White. So if I were to go back, any of these dry. This one's dry. I'm not getting a whole lot of change out of that. Okay. Blue. Or you can go, again, just how does that smudge around? That is a beautiful color. Oh, love that. So I will have to find a color chart for Conte, and so I can know what the names of these are. This looks like an ultramarine blue. And I do have other older Conte Paris pencils, so I'm just adding to my collection. And I do have other Faber-Castell pastels. Kind of a pale gray. And it's brown. And finally, another gray, a little bit different. So that's it. That's my art supply haul. I don't want to talk about how much this little bit of stuff cost me. Art supplies are getting more expensive, so you need to be a little bit mindful about how you'll use them. You may always be tempted to go with a cheaper brand, and I do that too, and I'm messing around and I'm experimenting. But be aware, because of the quality, it's really easy. You may not get the results that you want or expect, and get discouraged about pursuing your art. Because if you look at other professional artists who use these professional grade art materials, getting fabulous results, it's not just skill, but it's also the materials and the quality of the art supplies that they use. Skill is important. You have to practice. That's where I downfall. So I need to practice, get my skill level up. And I am fortunate that I have the art materials, art supplies that also contribute to getting the results that I want to get. So very happy with my art supply haul. I feel very lucky. But wow, are things getting expensive out there. So, but don't let that discourage you. Get the supplies that you can afford, the best that you can afford, and just have fun. That's what it's all about. Just a little bit of escapism, getting away from it all, and having fun. So, thank you for watching my video. Be sure and like and subscribe.